So I've been asked many times why I use emitters on my wicking tubs, my blackberry wicking tubs, instead of just watering down the hole like it's meant to do. I mean, when you build a wicking tub, you put in the fill tube, the watering hole, whatever you want to call it, and that's where you're supposed to water wicking tubs, right? Well, maybe, maybe not. I do both. Going to tell you the advantages of both and why I do one sometimes, the other at other times. And I think you'll understand when I get through. So let's get started. So most of you know I grow blackberries in containers. These blue containers are all blackberries. These orange containers here are all blackberries. They're in a state right now where I need to prune out all the dead canes that just produced and died. And so, you know, you're going to see a lot of dead growth. You know, they're not dying, they're dying, but they're supposed to. That's supposed to be dead because it produced blackberries and died. That's the way of blackberries. So, when I typically water a blackberry, I will turn on my drip irrigation. Let me get some stuff out of the way so you can kind of see what's going on here. I will turn on my drip irrigation, which I've got it set up right here. Looks like a conglomerate mess, but this shut-off valve is for my trees, my figs, my persimmons, figs. Got a pear, mostly figs, but that goes to, the line comes from here and goes that way, and then branches off and feeds the 3 rows, the 9 things I need to water. So that's why there's more mess down here than there should be or would be, is because I'm also watering in that direction. Can water at the same time. There's plenty of volume, plenty of support, volume as well as pressure to water it all at one time. But sometimes I just want to turn it off. If we've gotten some rain and I think the trees that are planted in the ground are getting plenty of water, then what I'll do is turn this shut-off valve off and leave this one on, which is going to water these tubs as well as the orange tubs there next to it. And all these tubs have an emitter. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. This is my little timer that I just absolutely love because it works so well. A nice little Orbit timer. Shoot, them things are $10, $12, $15. Worth their weight in gold as far as I'm concerned. Got to have a filter, got to have a pressure reducer, things like that. And a lot of this mess is this hose here that sometimes I do hand water, and I'll tell you about it in just a second. So what happens is when I turn that on, then I start getting these emitters to produce water for these tubs. And I've had so many people ask me, why in the world would when I have a fill tube here to water, why would I water here? So what I could have done is run this line just like it is now, running across the top of all these tubs. Or I could have even run it on the ground and had a 1/4-inch tube come up and feed that tube. But I've decided to do it this way for several reasons, and it has worked well. This is year 4 of these blackberries in containers, and as you can see, they are doing great. So this is the irrigation right there, 2 gallon per minute drip emitter, just punched straight into this 1/2-inch pipe, works fantastic. So why am I not watering down here? Well, I do. Many times I'll come in here, and that's why I have this hose sitting here with the doodad on the end of it, the wand on the end of it. Sometimes I will dump fertilizer, a water soluble, maybe a 20-20-20 from Haas, maybe that Micro Boost from Haas, and I'll just put some down the tube, maybe a tablespoon, a heaping tablespoon down the tube, and then I use that water there, that wand, to run down in it and just disperse it real quickly, hopefully let it dissolve where it doesn't just settle on the bottom here. And so that's when I water down the tubes, when I want to give it a good dose of fertilizer and know exactly how much each plant's getting. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That way I can control how much each plant is getting. This one got a big tablespoon, that one got a big tablespoon, the rest of them get a big tablespoon, and that way I know. But most of the time, I will come in here with my fertilizer injector and just hook it up to the system here. I've got quick connects on everything to where I can hook it up real quickly, and then I just run the fertilizer through here. And so the fertilizer, the Micro Boost, whatever I'm running that's water soluble, will come through the drip emitters and go down the line. Each one gets the same amounts. You know, supposedly, I don't know whether, I mean, there could be an issue where one drip emitter is getting a little clogged up. That's something you do have to check on from time to time. I try to do that every 2 or 3 weeks. Just make sure each emitter, in fact, especially if I start seeing some plants, you know, where the new growth is kind of looks like it's starving a little bit. Again, old growth. This is old growth that has already produced, needs to be cut out. It's just too dadgum hot to do that right now, but I will get to it. The new growth, on the other hand, is producing berries, and because these are primocanes, they produce berries on the new growth, the first year growth. Look at those. And I have found that sometimes the primocane berries on these Primark Freedoms are even bigger than the floricane berries. That thing is 1.5 inches long, or close to it. But I've got this pipe, this 1/2 inch. It's just so easy to do. 1/2 inch pipe running through, punch a hole in it, punch an emitter in it, you're done. Tie off the end so you don't, you know, so you got to close off the end of the pipe here. But it's just worked great. So that's why most of the time I do drip emitter, but some of the time I will water down the hole. Or if they start looking dry and I'm maybe just wondering if I'm getting enough, or maybe it's just a one-time thing in the wintertime, maybe I don't have the line set up, because I take all that loose in the wintertime now, because I don't want stuff to freeze and break, especially that timer and stuff like that. So in the wintertime, if we've had a dry spell, we hadn't had any water, they typically don't go just completely dormant, so they need a little water, I think. And so I'll come in here with the hose, stick it down the hole, and watch the water come out the weep hole, and then I know it's full. And probably will, in the wintertime, it's going to last several weeks. Summertime, it's only going to last a couple of days probably. So I water these just about every day in the hot summertime. You say, well, that's a heck of a lot of water. Well, is it? I mean, it's 3 gallons, 2.5 to 3 gallons per. If you set it on a timer and don't overdo it. Sometimes I water for 90 minutes, which would be the 3 gallons. Sometimes maybe 3 times a week I'll water it on 90, and 2 times a week or 4 times a week I'll water it on 60 minutes, which is just 2 gallons. That way I keep a steady amount. Now, again, that's when I fertilize manually down the hole. I use the wand, water down the hole. When I'm fertilizing with the fertilizer injector, as well as when I'm watering, this is my theory. Again, it's just theory, and this is what I think. Instead of putting water down the hole and letting it maybe coagulate down here, if you didn't really get a burst of water down there and try to really mix it in good, then it could very well be that your fertilizer is just sitting down there. The big clump of water-soluble fertilizer is just sitting down there. When you do like this, not only do you know the fertilizer is getting dissolved, in fact, it's getting dissolved before it ever hits that emitter there, but that fertilizer that's coming through the drip irrigation, that's coming from the fertilizer injector, I'll have a link to that below. Really, really, really like the fertilizer injector. So the fertilizer injector is injecting the fertilizer, and that fertilizer is wicking around the top of it, so it's kind of saturating the top of the wicking tub, especially if it's good and the soil's good and dry. It's going to really just bring it out, and it's also filtering down through the root system all the way down before it gets to the weep hole. So again, this is theory. I think it's a better way to water. When you fertilize, it's a better way to water. Because I think the fertilizer takes its time going down through. The roots can maybe have a little bit better access to it than they would if they wick it up. Maybe not, I don't know, but that's just me. So what I normally do when I fertilize, I don't want the fertilizer running out the weep hole. So the fertilizer will be a time when I actually turn it on about 60 minutes, maybe even less, because I want to make sure the fertilizer in the fertilizer injector is depleted, completely gone. You can see that with the color of it, because typically water soluble is a blue or something like that. You can see the color of the fertilizer injector changing, and when it becomes clear, then you know everything's gone. I can fertilize my trees out there too. I can fertilize these all at the same time with just plugging in a quick connect doodad, mixing up some fertilizer and putting it in the injector, and I am covering everything. And that is, man, that's so much easier. But my point is, as far as watering from on top, I can do that with tubes. I could do that, punch a hole right here in this little tube and run a little tube down here and have it all run down here, and it would be diluted. It would be diluted just like it is now coming out the emitter, but it wouldn't be filtering down, flowing slowly down through the root system, which this container is just packed with roots. I mean, it is packed with roots. I had to pull one out one day to change out the tub that broke. And I mean, it is just one solid chunk of roots. So, and it filters down. And doing it this way, in my opinion, my theory, it filters down through the roots and is, I think it's absorbed better than just wicking up. It's going to wick up some because you're going to fill up the container in the bottom too with fertilizer, a fertilizer mix. So that's going to be there. It's going to stay there until it, wicks it up and depletes it. But while it's coming down, while it's running with fertilizer in it, it is also, I think, just saturating the entirety of that tub. So that's my theory. That's why I do it this way. It's worked well for 4 years. I highly encourage you to give it a shot because of its ease of operation. Again, man, it's just easy to run a pipe from tub to tub and poke one hole in it, and you don't have to use the barb, you don't have to use the 1/4-inch hole, you don't have to use a emitter on the end of the hose. It's just, it's not a hassle, but it's a little bit more work than just punching a hole in this 1/2-inch tube and sticking an emitter in there. You're done. And, have to get to it with some elbows and whatever you have to do to get to it. But really, my opinion, the best way to do it. If you don't have a fertilizer injector, I still encourage you to irrigate like this because I feel the same way. As you irrigate, especially if that tub is dry, as you irrigate, it's saturating the root system. They're getting the water quicker, I think, than they would if it just comes down here, runs out the weep hole, and then wicks back up. So I think it's the best way to do it is from right here. I will probably use this video to answer that question from time to time when it comes back up again. But again, if you don't have the fertilizer injector, you're going to have to fertilize here, run your wand down it, stir it up the best you can. I just don't know. You can't tell. You won't know whether or not it's completely stirred up. So that's why I like this. That's why I like the fertilizer injector, because it's stirred up. It's dissolved and ready to go, because it's obvious when you look at the fertilizer injector that it is gone when it's done doing its thing. So again, I'll have a fertilizer injector link below. I highly recommend those. Haas has got a good one, and I'll just link to that below. But fill tube, drip, what do you do? Well, sometimes you just do both. Hope that helped you, and I think we're done now, and we're gone.